Pokemon Legends ZA might be the most divisive title Game Freak has ever released. Some people are desperately calling it a masterpiece and Game Freak's return to form, while a much louder chunk of the community criticizes it as being another rushed release from a studio that hasn't been given the time or maybe the motivation to actually finish what they start. After nearly 30 hours with the game, I've had a chance to see firsthand what Pokemon Legends ZA is and isn't capable of. Is it better than it's given credit for? Is it genuinely a good game buried under poor execution? Or is it just another broken promise from a studio chasing the ghost of who they used to be? Welcome to Under the Spotlight. New battle system's alright. Two of the biggest criticisms I've seen are that the gameplay loop is repetitive and boring, and that the performance is poor overall. I want to get these out of the way because, believe it or not, I actually side with Legends ZA on both counts. Performance-wise, I honestly haven't experienced anything significant. No severe frame drops, and no glitches that made me fall through the floor, though yes, I've seen clips of it happen. When playing the game on my OLED Switch, it actually runs surprisingly well. Considering how abysmal Scarlet Violet ran at launch, I was bracing for disaster. Maybe end up with some clips to farm for shorts, but to my surprise, the majority of the game runs incredibly smooth. To be fair, it's not that hard to run well when most of what you're doing is gliding downhill. Now, it does have hiccups here and there. I sometimes got a weird visual bug where everything would randomly blur for 15 to 20 frames before returning to normal, and yes, there are occasional FPS drops, but honestly, these issues are minor, and all things considered are highly unlikely to hinder or outright ruin your experience. It's the other, bigger problems, the outdated visuals, clunky AI, and lifeless atmosphere that make these minor performance hiccups feel much larger than they actually are. And while the gameplay loop is absolutely repetitive, every time I hear this criticism, I can't help but think, have you even played a Pokemon game? From its very inception, Pokemon has been about one thing: battling. Walk from point A to point B and battle everything in between. And the missions, when you boil them down, they're exactly the same. Do stuff so you can get places, so you can battle people and Pokemon, all dressed up with a veneer of importance courtesy of an overly simple plot. But ignoring the fact that these games have always been made and marketed for children, from Red Blue all the way up to Legends ZA, Pokemon has been about the grind, catching the best Pokemon to become the best trainer in the world. And while I'll admit the gameplay loop could definitely use some improvement, and that the multiplayer post-game isn't for everybody, it, along with minor performance issues, is, in my opinion, among the least concerning issues this game faces. Whether you like to admit it or not, the visuals in Pokemon Legends ZA are far from acceptable by 2025 standards, even for indie developers with a staff of 10 or less and an even smaller budget. Had this game been priced at 30, even $50 US, I could maybe pass it off as an okay experiment, a test of systems that they eventually plan to expand on down the line. But it's not. This is a full-price title, and if you disagree, sorry to burst your copium bubble, this game released 15 years ago, and it runs beautifully and looks breathtaking on a Nintendo Switch. So why the f are we pretending that this is okay? I'll be the first to say that a game doesn't need next-generation graphics to be good, nor does having them automatically make a game good. The most primitive visuals can look absolutely incredible if they're paired with clever tricks of the trade to give the illusion that there's more than meets the eye. That is not the case here. I don't know what it is with modern Game Freak and their obsession with mashing realistic environments with cel-shaded anime-style characters, but it just doesn't work. At least not how they're doing it. The models and some of the building interiors are genuinely impressive, but since most of your experience happens on the streets of Lumiose, it's hard to give the game much credit for this. Had they put as much soul and effort into the overworld as they did into, say, the hotel interiors, the game would feel far more polished, professional, and an actual representation of Game Freak in peak form. But as much as so many people try to hoist this game up onto a pedestal and proclaim it a masterpiece, there's absolutely absolutely no denying, without a shadow of a doubt, that this game is undercooked.
Fucking raw! What the fuck is going on?
This is by far the single most common criticism I see about Legends ZA, and whether you enjoy the game or not, you cannot deny that it's entirely valid. Enjoyment doesn't erase flaws. There's a massive difference between something that's subjectively fun and something that's objectively well made. I've seen a lot of people try to defend the game by saying it's a Switch 1 title patched for Switch 2, but that argument falls apart instantly. The very first game released on the original Switch was Breath of the Wild, a game that not only ran better, but looked better and built a world that felt alive, despite the hardware's limits. The furthest thing from undercooked. If Nintendo could pull that off in 2017, then nearly a decade later, this level of blatant mediocrity is inexcusable from a well-established studio that resides exclusively under their umbrella. Yeah, maybe what they gave us is serviceable to a degree, but had this game actually lived up to AAA standards, there would be far more people talking about it, playing it together, and isn't that the point? Why are so many settling for complacency solely because the game gave them what they wanted and that's all that matters? You're not just a part of your own gaming experience, you're a part of the gaming community. Whether you like it or not, that means advocating for better products for everybody, others and yourself included. You can love Legends ZA and still acknowledge the truth. It's rough, it's messy, and it just doesn't feel finished. But the moments it does get right, they shine just enough to keep you playing. But from the dated visuals, clunky AI, and underwhelming atmosphere, why the fuck are there so many windows? No matter how much or how little you enjoy it, it's far from the experience that the Pokemon community wanted or deserved. In spite of any argument that you can make for or against this game, one of the ugliest parts about Pokemon Legends ZA's launch is how absolutely fucking pathetic so many people are acting. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is inconsequential. Games are a privilege, not a right, and talking down or treating somebody like they're lesser simply because they disagree with you about Pokemon is embarrassing. This is just a video game, and to quote former President Scott the Woz, it's not that deep. It is absolutely fair and justified to criticize this game for being anything but finished, because without criticism, there's no path to improvement. But telling someone their life has lesser value or mocking their financial situation, that's fucking pathetic. Let me be clear, this smoke isn't for everybody. There's a large part of the gaming community that can happily coexist whether they bought the game or not. If that's you, you a real one. Right now, I'm talking to the poison. You know who you are. Grow up. Get off the floor and onto your fucking feet. You're drowning in a puddle of your own creation. If a video game makes you this angry, the game isn't the problem. You are. If you want to play Legends ZA, then absolutely go for it. But don't start calling somebody broke, delusional, or just another hater for raising valid criticisms in an effort to better future experiences for themselves and for you. And if you don't want to play Legends ZA, then don't. Honestly, I completely understand why, and if it weren't for my partner's interest in the title, this is a train I would have been no worse off to miss altogether. But don't start labeling people as shills and losers who deserve to live a shorter life just because they choose to ignore the bureaucracy and enjoy the franchises they love. If you feel the need to blow smoke, then come here to this video and put me on blast. I could use the interaction. But again, in closing, I cannot stress this enough. It's just Pokemon, and it's just a video game. Whether it's good or bad doesn't fucking matter. Treating others with respect does. So let's all get the fuck over it and get along. Seriously though, why the fuck are there so many windows?